Failure is not the end. It's simply a signal that it's time to adjust your strategy, not abandon your dream. Let me tell you something important, and I want you to listen carefully. Failure is not a person, it's just an event. You are not your failures. You are not your setbacks. You are not the lost deal, the missed opportunity, the bad decision. You are the one who decides what to do next. See, here's what most people never understand. Failure is a teacher, but only if you're willing to sit in the classroom long enough to learn. Most people, they quit too soon. They take failure as a final verdict, not realizing it was only a lesson. A whisper from life saying, try again, try smarter, try with more wisdom. And I'll tell you this, I'd rather fail at something worth doing than succeed at something that doesn't matter. Because if you fail doing something that matters, you're still growing. Now let me ask you a question. Have you failed before? Of course you have. So has everyone. It's part of the price you pay on the road to success. In fact, you should be more afraid of never failing, because that usually means you've never tried. The walls of comfort are decorated with broken dreams. And if you're not careful, comfort will cost you your future. There's a myth floating around that successful people never fall, that winners never make mistakes, that champions always get it right the first time. Not true. Winners fall more than others, but they don't stay down. They use the fall to rise higher. They use the pain to grow stronger. They use the failure to become wiser. Let me tell you something I've learned after years of speaking, growing, and helping others. A failure is simply a few errors in judgment repeated every day. But guess what? Success is also just a few disciplines practiced every day. It's a choice. One leads to regret, the other to reward. So why this message? Why this topic? Because some of you are ready to give up. You're staring at a failure, of a mistake, a disappointment, and you're letting it define you. Don't. Failure is only a moment. It's not your identity, unless you accept it as permanent. And that's what we're going to talk about. Don't ask for it to be easier. Ask for you to be better. That's what failure is trying to do. It's not trying to defeat you, it's trying to develop you. If you're willing to learn, willing to adjust, and willing to keep going, then your failure may just become your greatest asset. Let's begin. You know, people often treat failure like it's this big, scary monster hiding under the bed, lurking in the shadows, ready to jump out and ruin your life. But here's what I've learned. Failure is not a monster. It's a mentor. And if you treat it right, it'll teach you more than success ever could. Let that sit for a moment. A failure is not the end. It's not punishment. It's not personal. It's simply feedback. See, you tried something and it didn't go the way you planned. That's not a monster. That's just a result. It's telling you something. It's saying, try again. But this time, do it better. Do it wiser. Now that's a mentor. Let me tell you something important. Every successful person you admire failed. They just didn't stop there. They didn't throw in the towel and say, well, that's it. I guess I'm not good enough. No. They listened, they studied, they reflected, and they adjusted. Don't curse the experience. Bless it. Because within it lies the seed of wisdom. You lost money in a bad investment. That's painful, but it's a lesson in due diligence. You lost a relationship because of poor communication. That hurts. But it's a lesson in listening, patience, and presence. You failed a test, didn't get the job, missed the opportunity. Yes, that stings. But what's the lesson? What can you correct? See, if you take the time to ask that, now you're learning. Now you're growing. Now you're turning failure into fertilizer. You know what's worse than failing? Pretending you didn't. Because now you lose the gift inside it. You ignore the message. And if you ignore the message, you're bound to repeat the mistake. That's not growth. That's stagnation. Failure can be a teacher, but only if you enroll in the class. The fee. Humility. That's right. You've got to say, maybe I didn't have all the answers. Maybe I got ahead of myself. Maybe I missed a few details. That's not weakness. That's maturity. Life doesn't respond to need. It responds to deserve. And deserve comes from discipline, learning, and adjustment. So the next time you fall, don't cry. Study. Don't quit. Ask why. Take out a pen. Write down what happened. What led to it? What could you have done differently? Now, you're building character. You're building wisdom. And wisdom, my friend, is more valuable than gold. I'll tell you something personal. I fail, yes. I've made the wrong decisions. I've waited too long. I've moved too fast. I've lost opportunities. But I didn't stay there. I sat down with failure like an old friend. And I said, okay, what are you trying to teach me? And when I listened, really listened, it whispered the truth. You're not done. You're just being shaped. You see, the ones who succeed in life are not the ones who avoided failure. They're the ones who made peace with it. They stopped seeing it as a monster and started seeing it as a mentor. So the next time you fall, and you will, say this to yourself: this is not the end of me. This is the education of me. Dust yourself off. Write down what you learned. Stand up taller and walk forward. Not better, but better. Because if you let it, failure can teach you everything you need to know. Let me tell you something I've learned the hard way. Every setback comes with a gift. But here's the challenge. The gift never comes wrapped in shiny paper. Most of the time, it shows up in a mess. Wrapped in disappointment. Tied up in frustration. Covered in delay and discouragement. But it's still a gift. If you're willing to look. If you're willing to unwrap it. Patiently. Don't ask for life to be easier. Ask for you to be better. Because when the storm passes and the dust settles, you'll find something in the rubble. A new piece of yourself. Now, most people don't see the gift. They miss it. Why? Because they're focused on the pain, the loss, the embarrassment. And believe me, I get it. It's not easy. It's hard to see clearly when your heart is broken, when your business is crumbling, when your plan falls flat. But that's where the growth hides, in the middle of the mess. You might be thinking, Jim, I failed. Where's the gift in that? Well, maybe the gift is clarity. Maybe now you know what doesn't work. Maybe you've been chasing the wrong dream, or maybe you finally discovered what matters. Sometimes the gift is awareness. Sometimes it's a new direction. Sometimes it's strength, the kind you only find after everything else falls apart. Life is not just the passing of time. Life is the collection of experiences and their intensity. And failure, that's an intense experience, but it's also rich in insight, rich in understanding. You've just got to pause and pay attention. Let me give you an example. Say you started a business and it failed. You lost money, time, confidence. But when you sit with it and reflect, you discover you were missing structure, missing communication, maybe even missing passion. So next time, you build the foundation stronger, you choose more wisely, you prepare more thoroughly. That's a gift, my friend. But you only get it if you look beneath the surface. Now let me warn you, not everyone wants to see the gift. Some people would rather blame the economy, blame their family, but blame their circumstances. But when you blame, you give away your power. And when you give away your power, you miss the gift. Don't do that. Instead, take full responsibility. Not for the failure, but for the learning. It's not what happens that determines your future. It's what you do about what happens. That's where the gift is. In your response. In your attitude. One of the greatest gifts I ever received from failure was the lesson of humility. See, I used to think I had all the answers. Until life reminded me. I didn't. Failure showed up, knocked me down, and whispered, "There's more to learn." That moment changed me. It opened the door to mentorship, to study, to growth. That was a gift. A precious one. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. So here's your challenge today. Go back to that moment, that failure, that disappointment, and ask yourself, what was the gift? What did I learn? What did I gain? What did I become because of that moment? Write it down. Reflect on it. Because now you're not just someone who failed. You're someone who grew. You can't change the past, but you can change what it means to you. You can change how it shapes you, how it strengthens you. Because in every failure, in every loss, in every heartbreak, there's a gift. But you have to be wise enough to open it. Don't let your learning lead to knowledge. Let it lead to action. Now that you've seen the gift, do something with it. Apply it. Share it. Use it. Because now you're ready for the next level. Let me tell you something that changed my life. One simple word. Decision. Not timing. Not even intelligence. Decision. That's the moment where everything shifts. Your life does not get better by chance. It gets better by change. And change starts with a decision. Not someday. Not when I feel ready. But now. I remember a time in my life when I was broke, behind on promises, ashamed of where I stood. I had dreams, sure, but I also had excuses. And those excuses were very expensive. Then one day I made a decision. Not a wish, not a hope, a decision that I would change, that I would study, that I would build something better no matter what. That one decision, it started everything. But here's the truth most people never decide. They wait. Wait for the pain to pass. Or wait for someone to believe in them. Wait for a better time. Let me tell you, waiting is a trap. It's the illusion of movement. But nothing changes. Time possessed, but you don't grow. The years stack up, but nothing shifts. If you don't change, nothing changes. So the real question is, when are you going to decide? Now, I don't mean decide casually. I mean decide with resolve. See, resolve means I will until. I'll do this until it works. Until I learn. Until I become the person who can. Most people try. Few commit. There's a difference. Trying says, I'll give it a shot. Commitment says, I will until. That's the decision that changes everything. When you decide, I mean really decide, something inside you rises. Clarity replaces confusion. Determination replaces doubt. People around you feel it. Your habits change. Your schedule shifts. Your language sharpens. Because now you're not living by accident. You're living on purpose. Here's the amazing thing. You don't need 100 decisions. You just need a few made with strength. One decision to get up earlier. One decision to stop complaining. One decision to invest in yourself. One decision to turn failure into fuel. That's all it takes. And that's available to you right now. But here's the catch. Decision comes with a price tag. It'll cost you your excuses. It'll cost you your comfort. It'll cost you your old story. You know, the one that says, I'm too old. I'm too far behind. I missed my chance. You cannot change your destination overnight, but you can change your direction overnight. That's the power of decision. It shifts your direction. And once direction changes, everything else follows. Think of a ship in the ocean. You don't need to turn it around instantly. You just need to shift the wheel a few degrees. Give it time, and suddenly, you're on an entirely different course. That's what one decision can do. But you've got to be honest with yourself. Ask, what decision have I been avoiding? What action have I postponed? What commitment have I delayed? Because the longer you wait, the heavier the regret. And regret is a burden that grows over time. Decide today, not because it's easy. Decide because you're ready to grow. Decide because you want more. Decide because you refuse to live stuck in the same place, thinking the same thoughts, telling the same story. Success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines, practiced every day, and discipline begins with a decision. So stand up inside yourself. Right now, make the shift. Say, I will no longer be the same. I will no longer play small. I will no longer run from failure. I will become. That's the power of decision. That's where transformation begins. Let me tell you something powerful. Pain is a signal. Not a punishment, but a signal. It says something must change. And that message, if you listen, can become the very beginning of your new life. Don't wish it were easy or wish you were better. You see, the pain doesn't leave just because we ignore it. It doesn't dissolve because we deny it. It stays, and it speaks. Now, some people run from it. They drink it away, scroll it away, sleep it away. But when they wake up, the pain is still there. You know what I learned? Pain becomes progress when you face it. When you stop asking, why me? And start asking, what can I learn? That's a shift. That's the pivot. And that's where power lies. I remember a man who came up to me after a seminar. He said, Jim, I lost everything. My business failed. My wife left. I feel like a broken man. And I looked at him and I said gently, maybe this isn't the end. Maybe it's the beginning if you'll let it be. Because failure, my friend, is not fatal. It's instructional. It's the universe saying, time to adjust, time to grow, time to become someone new. Now I know. Pain doesn't feel like a blessing. It feels like a burden. But here's the truth: in growth and comfort do not coexist. You want to get stronger. You've got to lift the weight. And sometimes that weight is failure. That's the price of wisdom. That's the currency of growth. The walls we build around pain keep out the joy too. So don't just feel the pain. Use it. Use it to feel your mornings. Use it to drive your study. Use it to remind you of what matters. Because pain with purpose, it becomes power. Here's the difference between those who stay stuck and those who rise. The stuck person sees pain as the end. The growing person sees it as a beginning. I remember when I hit a low point. I was working for pennies. No direction. No confidence. And I thought, maybe I'm not cut out for much. But then I stopped. And I said to myself, maybe this pain is pushing me to change. That was the moment. That's when pain became progress, because I leaned in. I studied. I practiced. I worked harder on myself than I did on my job. And the pain, it started to fade because I was growing. Now, I'm not saying pain disappears overnight. I'm saying progress gives the pain meaning. And when pain has meaning, it doesn't destroy you, it builds you. So what you've been calling failure might just be feedback. Not, I'm no good, but I need new skills. Not, I'll never succeed, but there's more for me to learn. Let me give you something you can do starting today. Reflect, don't regret. Write it down. Ask yourself, what did I learn from that mistake? What pattern do I need to change? What character was forged through that hardship? Because if you don't turn your pain into purpose, you'll carry it like baggage. And it gets heavier every year. But if you study the pain, it becomes your greatest asset. People ask me, Jim, what's the fastest way to grow? Here it is: learn from your pain. The faster you learn, the faster you rise. You can either go through life as a victim or a student. Be a student. When something hurts, don't curse it. Study it. Ask questions. Get curious. Say thank you, pain. You're showing me where I must grow, because you can't fix what you don't face. And when you face it, you take back your power. So, yes, pain will come. Setbacks will happen. But they don't define you. How you respond, that's the difference. Because pain is part of the process. Progress is the reward. Don't run from it. Don't waste it. Transform it. Let me begin with a statement that might shake you a little, but I want it to sink in. The setback isn't the end. It's the invitation to something greater. It's not the full stop. It's the comma. It's not the closing scene. It's just the plot twist that sets up your grand return. And yet, so many never come back. They fall and stay down. Not because they don't have the strength, but because they forget what's inside them. Now I want to speak directly to you. Maybe you've had a tough season. Maybe you've tried and failed. Maybe people counted you out. Maybe you've even started to believe the whispers of doubt. The ones that say, you've blown it. You're done. It's too late. But let me remind you of something: the world doesn't define you. Your past doesn't define you. That voice of failure in your head, it doesn't define you. Only you decide what story to write from here. And hear me clearly: if you're breathing, you're not finished. You see, failure has a sneaky way of convincing us we're stuck. Like the setback is permanent. But it's not. It's just a signal. It's feedback. It's life's way of saying, time to learn something. Time to adjust. A time to grow stronger. But because that's how comebacks are made. Not by pretending we never failed, but by using the failure as fuel. Let me tell you, the comeback, it doesn't start when everything is perfect again. It doesn't begin when all the lights turn green. The comeback starts the moment you decide not to quit. That's it. One decision, one moment, one choice to keep going. That's where it begins. I've met people who thought it was too late to change, too late to fix their marriage, too late to chase the dream, too late to get healthy, too late to rebuild their finances. But here's the truth. It's not too late if you're willing to do the work. A not easy work, but the right work. Consistent, deliberate, purposeful work. That's what builds the bridge from setback to comeback. And here's something I need you to understand. The comeback is never about other people. It's not about proving them wrong. It's about proving yourself right. Because deep down, you know there's more in you, more potential, more strength, more purpose. And the setback, that's what wakes it up. I remember a man who came up to me once after a seminar. He'd lost everything, business gone, health failing, relationships shattered. He looked me in the eye and said, "Jim, I don't think I can ever come back from this." I looked right back and told him, "You don't need to come back as the same man. You need to come back better." And that changed his life, because the comeback is not about getting back to where you were. It's about going to where you've never been. It's about progress, not perfection. Now let's talk practically. What does a comeback look like? It looks like getting up early when you don't feel like it. It looks like studying when no one's watching. It looks like eating right, saving money, reading books, having the tough conversations, showing up every day. It's not flashy. It's not glamorous. But success is not doing extraordinary things. It's doing ordinary things extraordinarily well. A day by day, brick by brick, step by step. That's how comebacks are built. And yes, it's going to be hard. You're going to feel resistance. You'll be tempted to quit again. But here's the good news. Every time you keep going, you build muscle. Discipline muscle. Resilience muscle. Courage muscle. And the more you keep moving, the easier it becomes to move. Momentum is a powerful thing. Once you have it, it starts working for you. Let me ask you something important. What if your best chapter hasn't been written yet? What if your greatest contribution is still ahead? What if the pain you're experiencing right now is preparing you for something incredible? Would it be worth pushing through? Because let me tell you, the greatest stories are not the ones with perfect starts. They're the ones with epic comebacks. People are inspired by how you rose, not by how you avoided falling. So don't hide the failure. Don't bury it in shame. Don't use it. Transform it. Because your setback might just be someone else's hope. Your comeback might be the light someone else needs to keep going. If you will change, everything will change for you. That's what I discovered. And I hope you do too. Because the person who can rise from failure, who can stand up, dust themselves off, and say, "Let's begin again," that person becomes unstoppable. That person becomes wise. That person becomes strong. That person becomes dangerous to mediocrity. Let me leave you with this. You are not what happened to you. You are not your failures. You are not your past. You are what you choose to do next. And the comeback, it's already inside you. All you have to do now is rise, one step, one powerful decision at a time.